Slum 1200 GGI Mob, and I'm back. Slum 1200 GGI Mob, and I'm back. Slum 1200 GGI Mob, and I'm back. Back.
Put a loaf of bread on your head like I was baby now. Niggas say they pull up and spray, wasn't no saving it. Shit, I'm out here trapping, no capping, trying to feed my baby now. Yeah, I keep the 50, you dig your grave, I'ma lay you in. I ain't with the back and forth beefing all on the internet. I'ma catch you lacking in traffic, nigga, and leave you there. Shit, I know some niggas will cut you, split you from ear to ear. Cutthroat to the gristle, my nigga, rest in peace, Soldier Slim.
Slum 1200 GGI Mob shit, and I'm back. So in this episode of Certified Steppers, we're going to be talking about Howard Pappy Mason. You know what I'm saying? Free Pappy. So Howard Pappy Mason will be born September 8, 1959 in Birmingham, Alabama. And the funny thing about this, Pappy and Fat Cat were born in Alabama. Fat Cat was born in 1958 in Bessemer, Alabama, and Pat was born in 1959 in Birmingham, Alabama. How ironic is that, huh? So I be wondering if they knew each other before they actually moved from Alabama and went to New York. So Pappy Mason is a American drug trafficker and organized crime figure. Mason and his partner, Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols, ran a drug smuggling operation called the Bebos in Jamaica, Queens. The gang sold drugs and netted as much as $200,000 per month in profits. Mason is serving a life sentence in federal prison. So Pappy Mason will actually burn down the whole house with an act that he pulled off without sanction from Fat Cat Nichols. And this will be the downfall to their whole empire.
Lorenzo Nichols is accused of running the biggest crack operation in Queens and perhaps the city.
So, from behind bars on gun charges, Mason ordered the 1988 murder of a police officer named Edward Byrne, which led to increased law enforcement attention and Mason's eventual arrest and conviction on various charges.
Although he took orders from Fat Cat for a time, Pappy had decided he was his own boss. And it was he who arranged for Burns' killing.
Police officer was murdered in New York City this morning.
Death after death recorded in passing news briefs. But this one last winter drew national attention.
On a Queen Street.
Patrolman Edward Byrne, 22 years old, was assigned to protect a witness whose house had been firebombed, a witness in a drug case. It was an execution, a message from the drug dealers that South Jamaica is ruled not by government, but out of the barrels of guns. Byrne's father Matthew is himself a retired police officer. He saw in his son's death a warning that anarchy is growing fast in America's neighborhoods.
For many years, we've all heard about the so-called war on drugs. The drug peddlers are now telling us that they've declared war on society. And you and I are society. And now the question becomes, what are the decent people of the world going to do as a result of his death?
That speech struck home with Americans across the country and with the politicians.
One thing was sure, citizens cannot stop the drug war. The drug war, down with drugs! Amen!
South Jamaica suddenly became good campaign material.
You read about the execution of Officer Edward Byrne. You've read about the drug-related violence that's turning sections of our cities into combat zones.
My friends, the streets of America do not belong to drug peddlers and crack gangs. They belong to us, and we're going to take them back.
After the killing of Edward Byrne, that whole lifestyle of hustling, definitely selling drugs, was completely obliterated, if you ask me. I'm not saying it didn't stop. I'm saying that it stopped for 150th Street.
Police and federal agents conducted a major drug sweep in Queens today.
On August 11th, city police, the FBI, and the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency did carry out raids all over South Jamaica. They arrested 30 alleged members of the gang headed by Fat Cat Nichols, the man police believe may have ordered the killing of Officer Byrne.
There should certainly be a message here to even the most hardened drug lords that if they start fooling around with law enforcement as they did with Ed Byrne, they're really going to have to pay the price.
But even this raid came only after a police officer was killed. And just a week after the arrest, police from the local precinct saw other drug gangs already moving in on Nichols' turf.
Spread your legs and look at the card. Don't turn around and look at me. You got it?
Yeah.
It was business as usual for cops like Sergeant Ernie Nespresso.
But as far as the Ed Burns, I thought that was a tragedy. I would never condone such a detrimental act. That was a big disaster right there. Because it fucked up everybody's money. Once they started moving everybody, that's when things just started going in different directions all over the place.
A month after the killing, Mason was sentenced to 7 years in prison on gun charges. The federal government continued to investigate Mason for the Byrne killing. On December 11, 1989, Mason was convicted on federal charges including the murder of a police officer and 4 years legal wrangling, including questions of Mason's mental competency.
Sources who are familiar with the case say Mason thought murdering a New York City cop would please his friend Nichols because Nichols was angry over receiving a 25-year sentence on the weapons charges just the day before. The sources say that the murder in fact angered Nichols because he believes that was the event that brought down the full weight of both the state and federal governments on his organization, his family, and ultimately himself.
That changed a lot of lives. It changed the lives of the Byrne family. It changed the life of those in the street, and it changed my life.
He was given a life sentence in 1994. Mason began serving his life sentence at ADX Florence Supermax facility in Florence, Colorado. It was subsequently transferred around 2015 to USP Allenwood. In 1990, Mason's mother, Claudia Mason, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the drug trafficking. In 1990, Mason's mother, Claudia Mason, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for drug trafficking after she continued to run his crack business while he was in prison.
The FBI and NYPD took down the family crack empire of Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols, taking his mother and this sister into custody.
What'd you say to the police when they came in?
Kiss my
yeah. The feds say they want to break your family's control of the drug trade.
Scott Cobb very quickly made a deal to cooperate with the feds.
I'm willing to go on stand.
Doing his state time in federal protective custody.
So, this will be the rude awakening and a domino effect of the killing of the police officer Edward Byrne. So Pappy Mason will single-handedly take down the whole empire and kill a whole crack era single-handedly himself. From just one bad decision, he killed the whole empire.
South Jamaica was home to one of the suspects in the killing of Officer Byrne. 19-year-old Todd Scott was arrested along with 3 other young men, all allegedly acting under orders from a drug gang leader. Scott is awaiting trial. His lawyer agreed to an interview on condition that we ask no questions about the case. Scott would talk about the life he led growing up in South Jamaica.
A lot of people have never been in a neighborhood like yours. Tell me what it's like. Was it a good place, a bad place?
It was just like home, man. You know, it's the only place I knew about, so I couldn't say it was good or bad. It was just home, you know. It was bad though, but that's the only life you knew, you know, being in the projects, doing whatever to be done in there.
Bad in the sense of what?
Drugs.
Drugs?
Yeah. Drugs and shootings and all that, you know. You had to belong. It's like being, you know, belonging, you know. You had to go with the flow.
Go with the flow? Yeah. Do you remember when you first heard about drugs?
Yes.
How old were you?
I was like 10.
10?
Yeah.
We're going to have a real war and not a phony war against drugs.
Drug-related violence is turning sections of our cities into combat zones.
I'm not worried about the Russians invading the United States. We've got an internal enemy here.
Yet I hear the politicians, the candidates, talking about the war on drugs.
The war's not here. I don't see it.
But in South Jamaica, the rhetoric is drowned out by another reality.
Where'd the other guy go? He went around the corner.
For 2 years, the neighborhood has been the target of a special drug crackdown program ordered by the New York City Police Department. Murders here still rose by more than 30% last year, an increase blamed on crack.
This is a 357. Do a lot of damage. These bullets go right through the vest?
Hollow points. Hollow points, sure.
Sure. And these bullets go right through a police officer's vest.
Don't take anything.
On almost any corner, you can find business going on. Here's something changing hands. And here. And here in broad daylight, the boy goes to a hiding place, gets out his merchandise, hands something over to this man. And again here. And the teenage businessman counts a roll of bills. In South Jamaica, you don't have to be an adult to work in the drug trade. This corner market is right next to a school.
I'm afraid now. I always believed if I got off the LST in Normandy that I would survive. But here, you don't even know if you go out your door, you might get shot.
Aaron Dozier lives down the block from the schoolyard drug market. He's a World War II veteran and a retired postal worker.
Officer Byrne was killed right near here.
Yeah, about 4 blocks from here.
And what happened after that?
They set up a headquarters in the house that he was supposed to be guarding, and all the dope pushers moved over to this side of the street.
They just lifted up there.
And took up their equipment and walked right over here.
They must not be very
far to school.
Have they harassed the kids on the block?
Sometimes, yes.
Try to hustle the drugs to them?
Try to make the kids either be lookout for the police or have the kids selling it for them, actually. Because the kid can't get any time. So what can he do? They have a kid make the deliveries.
Every time you hear this, what do you think? You've been in combat zones before. Do you ever think this is a combat zone too?
Yep. All night you can hear pistol shots, sirens.
There was a nurse shot not far from here.
My wife's, she worked with her. For 18 years, my wife worked with that nurse.
With the nurse who was killed? She was shot in a line of fire?
Yeah, caught in a line of fire.
Maxine Peterson was shot to death last spring, apparently by drug dealers aiming for somebody else.
Is your wife afraid?
My wife is very afraid, yes.
She didn't want to be interviewed on camera because is that the reason?
Right. Yes.
Aren't you a little nervous going public this way?
I'm nervous, sure.
Why did you do
somebody has to take a stand. Someone has to stand up to this thing. Start with a little man and build it up. Maybe a big man might get the idea.
A big man, a president.
Right. Hopefully.
On Aaron Dozier's block, drug dealers reportedly operate out of one of the houses they've moved in with the elderly owner. In this modest neighborhood, expensive cars have become a common sight, and many residents feel they're under siege in a place that once was home.
More than 1,000 shootings this year so far. A summer when a 2-year-old in Brooklyn took one of the slugs. She survived, but 4-year-old Lloyd Morgan in the Bronx was not so lucky. What's fueling the gun violence now?
You know, I think what's fueling it now is, I think personally, is the breakdown of the family. I think everything plays a part. The economics of it plays a part. Lack of jobs.
25 years ago this summer, Michael Zotto was a rookie cop during another summer of guns, driven largely by the crack cocaine epidemic. Ed Koch was the mayor then.
When you get crime increase, you get gun increase, especially in this country.
By 1988, the homicide rate stood at 1,896 dead. And the most brazen gun murder that year happened at this corner in South Jamaica, Queens.
Instead I hear pow, 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 4 shots.
Rookie police officer Edward Byrne was actually hit 5 times in the head, executed by a squad of thugs acting on orders from jailed crack enforcer Howard Pappy Mason. Mason wanted to show police and the community who was really ruling the streets.
Todd was standing there laughing at the car, like they used to talk to him in the car.
And the guy said, you guys in Queens getting real crazy shooting cops, right?
It was unprecedented practically that people would go out and murder a police officer just to make a point.
New York Times columnist Jim Dwyer now refers to the late 80s crack trade as outlaw capitalism.
People were just making a lot of money and people were killing to keep that money.
That was obviously my first police officer funeral. It was just massive. I looked at it in awe and I carried it with me. That single event just really, it turned the tables on everything that we were doing.
The stunning execution of police officer Edward Byrne on this street corner proved to be a turning point for a city that was bursting at the seams with crack-related gun violence. It pushed the NYPD to join forces with the feds to take down drug families top to bottom.
We're just gonna roll out of here.
By 1990, when David Dinkins was mayor, housing police were trying to take back the projects from crack gangs in places like Red Hook, Brooklyn, even offering gun amnesty programs back then. Yet the homicide rate hit an all-time high of 2,245. Mayor Dinkins added thousands of cops to the force, and in 1994, Rudy Giuliani made aggressive policing a cornerstone of his administration. By 2001, homicide and robbery rates were down by 76%, and Mayor Bloomberg's administration succeeded in keeping the murder rate way down.
There's a total change in the ethic, right, of young kids. They just stopped carrying guns.
But the national fascination with guns never went away, and the access to high-tech weaponry grew. Starting in 2012, Byrne's family went before the parole board every 2 years to plead for the 4 men's continued incarceration. Byrne's older brother Larry led the charge and talked about his mother and his late father Matt in 2016.
He died with the fear that someday these people would be released from prison, and I'm determined to see that that doesn't happen.
But Larry Byrne, a former NYPD deputy commissioner, died in 2020 during a time when aging convicted cop killers were getting released from prison. The Police Benevolent Association told us it's tracked the release of 37 police killers since 2017.
We need the help of the people of this city to say no more cop killers back on the streets. I can tell you that Byrne family is devastated by this news.
And while South Jamaica residents remember the crime, they note Scott Cobb, now 60, served more than 3 decades behind bars.
I think he did his time. And he was young, true. Why he only got out and the rest of them didn't.
So once he received his time, he wound up having his parole officer deleted. So I'm assuming this would lead Pap to thinking that he could have a police officer deleted. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy, man. But long live everybody affected by that whole crack era, man. That whole thing that was going on at that time all around the world, really all around the United States. You know what I'm saying? May the peace, love, and blessings of the Creator be with everybody affected by that. All the people that lost their life. You know what I'm saying? Slum 1200 GGI Mob shit. Y'all get in that comment section, hit that like button, make sure the notifications turned on, and hit that subscribe button, and stay plugged. GGI Mob shit.
I bleed the streets, I am the struggle. Yeah, I'm the struggle. I bleed the streets, I am the struggle. Yeah, I'm the street. I bleed the streets, I am the struggle. Play the cuts like peroxide, waiting to bubble. Still trapping with this rapping, yeah, I'm going in. Trying to murder everything, even the pad and pen. No witnesses, no survivors. Red Cross, Glock fire, hot lava.